Allison Sargent joins me on the set to take a look at what the papers have been saying today. And as you might expect, it's all about Harry and Meghan, Allison.
It is all about Harry and Meghan, Jeannie. The British press is even more wrapped up in this story today than it was yesterday. The tabloid The Daily Mirror declares it the worst royal crisis in 85 years, which for those of you who don't follow the royal family is since Edward abdicated the throne back in 1936. Papers report that the Queen is now in emergency talks over how to respond to this. A conservative tabloid, The Daily Mail, is blaming Harry and Meghan for, quote, toxic accusations against their own family. They ask, what have they done on their front page? The Guardian, meanwhile, writes in its editorial today that these charges cannot be treated lightly. They say they come from Prince Harry himself, who is really the ultimate palace insider. The paper also writes, quote, the monarch's desire to be above the fray today looks like royal disdain for social movements such as Black Lives Matter and Me Too. And The Guardian concludes that Britain clearly and urgently needs to consider whether a hereditary head of state is still required today.
Now, other papers are pointing out the royal family's seeming unwillingness to protect Meghan Markle in contrast with other family members.
Yeah, in a cartoon by Morton Moreland of The Times, we see Prince Andrew watching this interview. Prince Andrew, who, of course, is accused of involvement with Jeffrey Epstein's underage sex trafficking ring. Here he is complaining that Harry and Meghan have no shame for the embarrassment they are causing the family. It's pretty clear irony in this cartoon. Meanwhile, The Telegraph's cartoonist Matt suggests that the interview needs to come with an Oprah warning. You are about to spill your wine on the sofa. Oprah, it should be said, has really been getting a lot of praise for her skill in this interview, especially in the United States.
Yeah, she certainly is a good one with follow-up questions. I'll give her that. All right, this interview is certainly getting a lot of traction, a lot of reaction from papers outside the UK as well.
Yeah, Belgian paper Le Soir today asks in their headline, is the royal family racist? Probably not the first time someone's asked that question. In a front page editorial, the paper writes that the British monarchy is shaken, but they conclude that despite the uproar, Harry and Meghan have no importance in the future of the country. Le Soir writes, quote, the Windsor institution is not trembling over its future, and they even throw in a God save the Queen for good measure at the end of this editorial. French paper Aujourd'hui en France, though, is less sure that this crisis is going to blow over. The paper agrees that it's not going to shake any support for the Queen herself, but, quote, the crown will be heavy for her heirs to carry. And the paper writes that the racism accusations in particular really tarnished the royal family's desired image of modernity.
Allison, we're going to stay in France for another story here. This is from the left-leaning paper Libération. It came under criticism Monday after it published a letter written by a rapist to his victim.
Yeah, Jeannie, many high-profile feminists here in France were really outraged over this, in part because of all days, Libération chose to publish this on their front page on International Women's Day. As we read in the HuffPost, feminists also accused the letter of romanticizing rape and of shifting responsibility away from the young man and onto rape culture more generally. Now, Libération did give justification for this choice in an introduction to the letter. They wrote to explain is not to excuse, and they also say that this letter was sent to them by the young man who did rape his ex-girlfriend, and that she also gave her consent for the letter to be published. Now, the young woman's name is Alma, and she was actually at the origin of a movement that some of our viewers might have heard of, calling out rape culture at the elite university Sciences Po, where she was a student. We can read her response to all of this in today's Libération. She writes, through Samuel's telling of the story, I want us to question ourselves more. She says that while she regrets the date that this letter was published and understands the anger that it sparked, well, she says each story of rape is very different and each victim's feelings are very different. And she says for now, she herself doesn't regret this and she thinks it was important for the discussion.
Allison, we're going to wrap up now with something completely different, a little something to soothe our souls, perhaps, from the pandemic, the celebrity news cycle. What is it?
Well, Jeannie, I have a question for you and for all of our viewers. How do you feel about cuddling a cow? I know I feel good about it, especially when I see this photo.
As long as it doesn't lick me.
I know. Oh, I think they do lick, so that might be a problem. The Washington Post reports that many people are desperate for affection after almost a full year of social distancing now, and people across the U.S. U.S. have been signing up at cow sanctuaries for a chance to hug cows. I have to say it's a bit pricey. At one animal sanctuary in Arizona, a cow cuddling session is $75 for an hour. They're also booked out until July, so if you want to do this in the U.S., you probably have to plan ahead. The good news in Europe is that we might be able to find some cow cuddling if we head to the Netherlands. It's also very popular there, where it is called kooknuffelen.
Growing up in the Midwest, I'd heard of cow tipping, never cow cuddling. You learn something
Times
new
have
every day.
changed.
Thank you, Allison Sargent, for that look at the papers.